So, ecosystem services at the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency has been quite a big process during the last 3 or 4 years. So, I'm gonna start by introducing you to the policy frameworks which we act within, and on the international level, it's the Convention of Biological Diversity, the CBD, and of course the Agenda 2030 with the SDGs that we have already heard about, and also starting to form is the IPES, the analog for CBD to IPCC for the Convention on Climate Change. And also important for us is the EU work, the biodiversity strategy. And narrowing down to the national level, we have our environmental quality objectives, and we have had a milestone target that is in short form, the importance of biodiversity and the value of ecosystem services. And to read the full milestone target, it's that the importance of biodiversity and the value of ecosystem services are by 2018, so we are heading close now, to be generally known and integrated into economic positions, political considerations and other decisions in society where relevant and reasonable. And this has been guiding our work in several ways. We had a long-term commission from the government to promote and communicate the value of ecosystem services, and that is led by my colleague Karin Skanse. She is also an expert in agricultural policy, so she was involved in the report that Jan just told you about. And we also fund research, even though we are a minor funder compared to the research councils. And we funded a project that landed early this year. Actually, we had the final conference. And both these actions has had a similar aim, even though they have been handled in parallel at first, but more jointly later on. And it's when and where to include the ecosystem services in decisions. And in official decisions on several levels, we include ecosystem services when we are trying to make guidelines for conserving nature. We also try to communicate that this is not perhaps only to protect the species, but there are some benefits for society by preserving this object. There are studies and guidelines on how we can use ecosystem services in environmental impact assessments on various levels. In spatial planning, it's coming very highly now. The Boverket, county, no, not county. Sorry, I can't find the word in English right now. the Authority of Housing and Boarding, it is, works a lot with implementing ecosystem services in decisions. And on a more local level, we try to find ways to implement it. We have these subsidies that the municipalities can apply for to make actions to conserve nature locally. And we have guidelines how to implement ecosystem services in those. It's shortened the LONA bidrag in Swedish. This communication campaign has had 3 pillars, or how I should put it, and it's to produce knowledge, to change attitudes, and finally to get action to introduce. And we have produced together with others tons of information material on various aspects of ecosystem services. I have brought some that you can use later on in the discussions. They are all in Swedish, unfortunately, but I guess there are many enough of you who speak Swedish, so perhaps you can use it tomorrow. And this communication campaign has a practical, pragmatic approach. We selected ambassadors and identified final target groups and created a network. And the final target groups, I have already said a little about it, decision makers, politicians on several levels of society. The selected ambassadors have been fed with knowledge and participated actively within the network, and they came from municipalities, county administrative boards, construction and infrastructure businesses, and sector associations such as the Landowners Association, as an example. And we, together with the network, SIPA has also worked in cooperation with 10 other national authorities. So we have produced lots of guidelines together with the Swedish Agency for Agriculture and the Agency for Boarding and Housing as an example. Early on, before this communication campaign started, it was delimited to include some specified sectors, and the scientific community was not planned to be included, and I think that was a pity, because I think we could have use of each other. Neither was the educational sector included, nor the health sector, but it's becoming so. If we get the possibility to continue this network, which we hope for, because it has really developed nicely, then we hope we can widen it and include more sectors. It has also included some strategic media work, where we have The general way have been that we have made a survey to get some idea of how people perceive ecosystem services, what is important, or sometimes it has come from a policy issue being raised in the media. And we believe these surveys, that we make also contribute to raising awareness and spreading the knowledge. And the network has transformed into a platform for exchanging knowledge and experiences. With the meeting opportunities, it has been regular meetings twice a year, and in the end even more often than twice a year. And the ambassadors included in the network has arranged meetings themselves, so they are really maturing and spreading the importance of ecosystem services outside of the network as well. And we act also in social media, and as I already said, we have produced various sets of guiding materials, and in producing the guiding materials, then in some cases we interact with the scientific community, but not always. They are supposed to be practically orientated, and usually they need to be delivered quite fast as well. But there has been guiding materials produced on valuing ecosystem services, on learning examples, and we have, for example, these arguments that are based on evidence, how to promote ecosystem services and make it even more implemented. And we have touched on how to produce policy briefs to get more use of technical reports of the SIPA calls, such as the value of ecosystem services. And those are not perhaps policy briefs in the general context, but they are more like a teaser to read the technical report. And one of the projects you are all very familiar with is about agriculture, that was led by Katarina, and Mark was also involved. And the 7 projects were quite variable, and that's has also been a learning experience on working on the concepts of ecosystem services for us, because at SIPA many of us are natural scientists as a background, and working with this concept, the degree of interdisciplinarity has increased. For example, starting from the top, 12 o'clock, that project of cultural ecosystem services was led by an environmental psychologist. And then we have yes, these bundles of ecosystem services and multiple users. There are several social scientists involved. But I think the rest of them are led by ecologists or natural scientists, but or were, I should say. And sorry. We also interact with the science in other ways that are also decision making. I already mentioned we fund research, but we also, together with Formas, one of the major research councils, co-found the ERANET Biodiversa, which has now very interesting projects under a call within blue-green infrastructures. We have the national focal point for IPBS, and connected to IPBS we have a National Scientific Council. Okay, I will speed up. And we cooperate with things like the report that Jan just presented. Okay. And in decision making, the awareness of the different perspectives between landscape actors have been more clear to us. So in trying to develop these action plans for green infrastructure, we have to cooperate and learn how to balance between different perspectives. And I'll skip that. So my personal reflection is that decision making is happening on several levels, and if we continue cooperation between research and policy development, along with local knowledge, we can further the learning process and within the concept of biodiversity and ecosystems, both on the national level and on the international level. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stress you so much. Are there any questions for Hanna? No immediate questions. Jan?
No, I thought that was off permanently now. No. So you mentioned that there were a couple of areas where you, at least personally, would like to see more sort of uptake of ecosystem service concepts, talking about schools and health. But then, are there also areas which have been targeted now where you see some significant barriers or obstacles? So surely there must be areas where you think things flow a little bit better than in others.
Yes, of course, there is. As I mentioned, in the urban context, things are really flowing very much now, especially in the bigger cities in Sweden. There are several processes running, like Caro City in Stockholm or biodiversity in Malmö, or so I really like the idea of Eclipse, that keeping the network of networks, because this is our network, but of course we are not including processes that are not done within the agency sector, or how I should put it, policy sector, sorry. So, but then again, it's also the question of equity. I think some municipalities are far behind, and maybe they are getting even more far behind